Hello everyone and welcome to another Digimon video. This time I'm going to outline a problem that I have with Digimon Adventure Colon that I've kind of always had this little bit of an off feeling about the characters in Adventure Colon, and now after watching the latest episode that aired today, I think I've finally really figured out what my main problem and my main issue with the characters and overall characterization of these characters in Adventure Colon. And that is that the personalities are more or less exactly like the personalities in not original 1999 Adventure, but actually the Adventure Tri counterparts, which is kind of weird because these characters would not have developed in the same way that the characters in Tri developed, because they're all one thing, they're teenagers in Tri, and also they've already gone through saving the world like twice in Adventure and Zero Two. So the fact that these characters have the same personalities makes it feel kind of off, that they basically have the characterization that a 15-year-old has versus the characterization that a 10-year-old has. And I just want to outline a couple of these characters and how they're feeling more or less the same as their Tri counterparts. So this is mainly the humans that have this issue. The Digimon don't really have that issue, mainly because maybe sometimes the Digimon just don't have characters in general. But the main thing I noticed is that, and this is the only Digimon that I'll mention, is that Agumon is hungry and eats everything. This wasn't really shown in Original Adventure 1999, but it came up in Tri. But I always thought that was mainly because the character of Agumon in Digimon Savers, which is Digimon's 5th season, was very hungry, was very food-oriented and food-focused and food-motivated. And we more or less have this in Colon with Agumon, how he's kind of like saying, oh, can I eat that? Is this food? Is this food? And it just is the same as Tri, but that's not as bad as the characters that I'm about to go through for the actual children protagonists. So first of all, we have Taichi, who is the protagonist. He is the focus, and that's the same as Tri, but that's not as much as it's not as off-putting as the other characters that I'm about to go through. Next up, we have Yamato, who is fairly distant and he's fairly shy, but he's not unkind like he was in the original Adventure. He's actually quite nice. He considers the group his friends straight away. He doesn't really act like doesn't try to act like he doesn't care about his little brother. Everyone knows he cares about his little brother. He's not going to hide that. And also, a tree hasn't convinced him to kill his best friend, and I can't imagine this version of Yamato falling for that. But yeah, he's not unkind like he was in Original Adventure 1999. He's still shy and reserved and a little bit distant, but more so like he was in Tri than in Original 1999. So he feels more mature. He feels more like, a 16-year-old rather than a 10-year-old or 11-year-old with these issues. Next up, we have Koshiro, who I thought, oh no, Koshiro's fairly different. This time he wears socks underneath his sandals and he has a tablet instead of a laptop, and we're focusing on how he has a laptop the entire time and how he wonders if he can be smart without it. And yes, he can, and I was really a big fan of that earlier on in the season. However, I did just remember how we have a few moments how Koshiro is just explaining what's happening, and then the other characters get distracted and just have their own discussions and conversations, and Koshiro continues explaining whatever's going on, which just feels exactly like what we had in one of the parts of Tri, where he's very smart, but he can get too focused in his explanations, and that causes the other characters to kind of tune out. But he'll still explain during that time, so that's kind of annoying. And yeah, he'll just sort of be talking in the background, no one's listening, and which is kind of sad for him, but it's basically the same character he had in Tri. Next up, we have Joe, who is increasingly concerned about how he has his studies on the side, and this is seen mainly earlier on the show, but he brought his books to the digital world and he's studying, and this is kind of reminiscent of how Joe's character was in the first few parts of Tri, where he doesn't really want to save any world, he just wants to focus on his studies. And in Joe's introduction episode, we basically had more or less the same plot line that Joe and Gomon had in the second chapter of Tri, where Joe is focusing on his studies, doesn't want to do anything with the Digimon, just kind of just saying, I just want to study. And we had the exact same thing happen in Colon, very early on in, like, I think it was episode 7 was Joe's introduction, and it's more or less the same. Next up we have Mimi, who I really do like her character in this season, but once I was thinking about it, I realised that this character is just the character in Try. So she's caring and she's brave and she has a really strong sense of justice. She will just plough forward into battle, but she's also fairly selfish still, which is more or less her character arc in the second chapter of Try, where she kind of will just push forward even if it's not the right thing to do. If it's the thing she wants to do, she's going to go ahead and do it. And that's more or less the character she has in Colin as well. And then we have Sora, who's a caring, motherly person and just wants to do what's right. And she will, if she sees someone struggling, she wants to help them even if it's out of her way. And it basically not much else. She's kind of quiet. If the show's not focusing on her, she's very easy to forget that she's actually there. Which is basically Sora in Try, how she kind of has her own stuff going on, but her role is mainly to be the motherly caring type. Then we have Hikari, who isn't as bad as the other characters in the show, but she's just a sister type who wants to protect, which is the same as Hikari is in every season, so that's not a huge deal. And then we have Takeru, who, and this both is and isn't the most out there one. He isn't a crybaby like he was in the original. He's actually quite brave, which is more or less his character in Try and in Zero Two, where he's already gone through all this trauma. But straight off the bat, Takeru is just, jumping in front of bad guys saying, "Yamete!" It's just not right for an 8-year-old. Like, he, in the original, was bursting out into tears. And I know you shouldn't compare the original with Colin too much because they're different seasons and this is a different demographic. But you can't just have them be the same characters from Try. You can't have the little brother type not be a crybaby. I feel like that's very weird. He is weirdly brave in front of the literal demons that he's been facing, and he doesn't really burst into tears much. And again, we still don't really know much about his backstory with Yamato. Same thing as we don't really know about Koshiro being adopted yet. He's kind of referenced it a few times, like maybe 20 episodes ago, but never again. But yeah, that's my main problem, which I've only just realised about Colin in general. And while I don't hate Colin necessarily, but I don't think I'm its biggest fan. And I mainly just realised this and I was like, well, I just have to make a video about it because it just feels exactly like the characters in Try again, which we already watched. And I wasn't really a big fan of Try when it happened, so I'm not really a fan of seeing the exact same characters, but this time they're in the body of 10-year-olds instead of high school students. I don't know. It's a weird one. But anyway, let me know what you thought about my points here, if you agree with them, if you disagree with them. Are you enjoying Colin? I would like to hear that because I'm slightly enjoying it less than I used to, but I still really love to hear people enjoying things about Colin. Please lift my spirits up just a little bit with some positivity. So yeah, just let me know what you thought about my point here and in the comments, and I will see you on the next video. Bye!